And we haven't brought up the San Francisco 49ers.
Yes, we haven't brought up the 49ers. And there's a lot to get into with the 49ers. We got the Brandon Ayuk situation that they're watching all the wide receiver 40 times. Would you rather just draft another wide receiver instead of paying Brandon Ayuk? What's the move here for the 49ers? What's the line that 49er fans will draw in the sand when it comes to Ayuk and his money?
Interesting.
What is appropriate? Now, we don't dictate. I'm not trying to pocket watch here with Brandon Ayuk. I want the guy to be a 49er for a long, long time, man. I really do. I think he's that good. But these wide receivers coming out are also good. Now, obviously, they're not proven at the next level, so that you got to deal with that. But also the new coordinator, Sorensen. And you got Brandon Staley here. What's your thoughts on that, Shasky? Brandon Staley's down the building.
Put Ayuk to the side. Let's start with the DC. They hired a guy from within. I have no idea what he's like in the building. I have no idea what he's gonna, how he's gonna be as a play caller. I will say this: the last two times they hired from within, essentially, Robert Saleh and
D'Amico Ryans,
they were excellent hires,
yep.
And he's done a really good job replenishing his staff. Kyle Shanahan, that is, just in general. They brought in Brandon Staley, and we'll get to him in a minute. But Sorensen, I guess if the players like him and he has familiarity with what they like to run, and I'm willing to see what it looks like.
Right.
I do think there's risk. He's never done the job before. We've all met people that are really good at sales and then become the manager, and those skills that were really good for being in sales don't necessarily translate. So you're a great position coach, or you're really good in the secondary.
Right.
Does that mean you know how to sequence plays and mix things up? I don't know. We'll see. Some people make the jump, some people don't. I was more surprised with the Brandon Staley thing. And the reason why I was surprised with the Brandon Staley thing is it was like, what exactly is he going to do?
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
Pocket dial.
What exactly is Brandon Staley going to do? I know Anthony Lynn was with the team. He was an assistant head coach, and I'm not sure what he did.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's start with Sorensen. Nick Sorensen, he was the team's defensive pass game specialist, a nickel quarterback coach, and now he's going to be the defensive coordinator. Obviously, after Steve Wilkes got fired back on February 14th. Brandon Staley will be hired as an assistant head coach, kind of like Anthony Lynn, right, coming from the Chargers. So I'm not sure what Brandon Staley's role going to be. Is he going to be in-game adjustments? Is it going to be game planning? I have no idea. No idea. But what about Nick Sorensen? He's a DB coach just like Steve Wilkes. Obviously, he's been in the system here for a couple years. He's a first-year coordinator. I hear everything you're saying about Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryans. We had no idea what we were gonna get from him. Is he the emotional guy? Is he fired up like Saleh and D'Amico? Which seems to be a point of emphasis for a Niners defense coordinator. A lot of people say, well, you need the rah-rah guy to pump these guys up, blah, blah. I don't believe in that stuff, but maybe they need that. So where is Sorensen when it comes to that? Is he an energetic guy? I know nothing about him.
That's what I'm
saying. Nothing whatsoever. Eric Crocker's going to join us at 9:20, and maybe he knows something about him, but he spent the 2021 season before his arrival in San Francisco, Nick Sorensen, as a Jacksonville Jaguars special teams coach. Before that, he was an assistant special teams coach, and he was an assistant DB coach and secondary coach in Seattle for 8 years, from 2013 to 2020. So he has a history of working with Pete Carroll's system, which the Niners trying to implement here, although they don't do a lot of 3 high. They do a lot of 2 high with the 2 safeties playing both hash marks, cover 2 man defense. Originally with Saleh and D'Amico, they were playing that cover 3 that Seattle loved to play. So he has a history with that, Nick Sorensen. So maybe they get back to that type of defense here with Nick Sorensen. But I really am clueless about the guy. I didn't hear much about him all season long up until they fired Steve Wilkes.
I don't know how anyone can have an educated opinion on him, really, in terms of, is he qualified for the job? I think it's easy to be like, Belichick is more qualified than him. Well, yeah, he's Bill Belichick. He's one of the greatest coaches ever. But do you know that Belichick was even interested?
Right.
Did he even want to be a DC? No, probably not. Pete Carroll is more qualified than Sorensen. Yeah, but does Pete want to work for Kyle? You know, these are all questions that you have to ask yourself as you're going through, this whole breakdown of where it stands. What are you looking for in a DC?
Yeah. I'm just looking for a guy who can stay ahead of the game. Can you be ahead of the offenses here? Can you keep an offense out of the end zone? Can you stop the run? How's your defense flying to the ball? That's what I want. Just, can you make the right calls? Are you running cover 0 blitzes right before halftime? You know what I'm saying? We don't want that, right?
I mean, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for somebody who can help figure out what's going to happen with this third cornerback spot. If I was asked, like, the number one thing, it's not about defensive line and filling the Dre Greenlaw's absence for however long he's out. Like, to me, the slot corner, they got really lucky with K'Wan Williams, and they had a couple of good years with him. They got really lucky with or I guess they get credit for it, with Jimmy Ward playing the slot last year. This year, they got really good production when Diamond or Lenore went inside.
Right.
But then that third cornerback was kind of up in the air. So are they going to go Demo again inside? Are they going to draft a guy to play inside and put Diamond or Lenore back on the outside?
Yeah.
To me, like that third cornerback spot, now, I'm getting real deep here.
Well, no,
I want to know what he's got planned for that.
Yeah, I mean, they probably got a draft. I want to see, how can you get this pass rush and get the most out of this pass rush? How does your scheme get the most out of Nick Bosa and whoever else is playing defensive line? Javon Hargrave. I don't know if they're going to move on from Eric Armstead. I don't know if they're going to move on from Javon Kinlaw. I don't know if they're going to move on from Chase Young and Randy Gregory. I know what I don't know. And I don't know a lot about the Niners' plans in the offseason. I don't pretend to know about that. But can you get the most out of your most expensive player on that defense, which is Nick Bosa? Can you put him in a position to shine and thrive and play like that DPOY he was a season ago?
So
that's number one for me.
Okay, and I'm glad you bring that up. You can break this down however you want. There's dead cap money, there's cap hit, there's cash, there's salary. Like, there's many ways to do this exercise. I'm just going to give you the cap hit for the Niners this year on a couple of players. Third most expensive player this year is Eric Armstead.
Yep.
$28.3 million. Then you got Fred Warner making $24.4. Then I got Charvarius Ward making $18. Hargrave making $15,
right.
Bosa with $14, even though he's getting $76 million this year. That's a lot of money to some premier players. Right. That's a lot of money. Like, the Armstead $28.3. How the heck can they get their money back? Like, in terms of production, how can they get the most out of him? Because he's had basically a year and a half of lost seasons.
Yeah, I mean, this year was a lost season with him. You hear about the knee injury he had to play through, the foot injury he had to play through. But when he's right, the Niners are one of the better run defenses in all of football.
Yeah, but he's paid for like a pass rusher. That's the part that sucks.
Well, that does suck.
It's not Sorensen's fault.
Yeah.
That's not his fault.
That's not, and you know what? That's not on Armstead either. The agent was able to broker a deal with Parag Marante and John Lynch and get that money. That's the 49ers' fault for paying him as a pass rusher when he's not a pass rush specialist. He's a run stuffer. You know what I'm saying? First and second down, he's legit. Third down, can he push the pocket and maybe do that at times? He does when he's right. But we don't see enough of it consistently.
Just Eric Armstead for a second here. Like, if you cut him, right, you have a $26 million dead cap. Like, most teams aren't going to take that big of a hit. He's making 10% of the cap. That's a bad deal. Like,
it's not the greatest deal in the world.
It's just a bad deal.
It's not the greatest deal in the world, but also don't like giving up good players.
No, I'm with you.
Armstead's a good player.
I'm with you.
I'm just not willing to just cut a good player and then you take a risk with drafting a rookie who may not understand the wide eye scheme and may not be able to play with that leverage that Armstead plays at. When Armstead is healthy, he does make this defensive line better.
No,
now, we don't see it in the stat sheet. You could compare it, say, to a Draymond Green or Podge, right? If you just looked at the box score every day with those two players, Draymond or Podge, they're going to say, oh, these guys aren't any good, man. Look at the box score, blah, 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 blah. Watch the game.
Yeah, but
he's one of those, Armstead's one of those watch the game type of players.
Yeah, but I would also say to you, when it comes to value and you're building a team out, defensive tackles, unless they sack the quarterback, don't get $28 million a year. Like, that's bad value when we talk about value, because you're paid via production. Like, tight end is a depressed salary in contrast to wide receiver, right? And so you get good value when you sign a tight end to a long-term deal because they're only making like 14, 15 million at the high end of the market. Almost $30 million from a non-sack happy defensive tackle is just bad money.
Right. Now, if you could get him to take a pay cut, perfect.
I don't know how.
Perfect. But, that's on them. I hear you on the sack production or whatnot, but that's what Bosa gets paid for.
No doubt.
As long as Armstead's pushing that pocket in the middle and making quarterbacks retreat or whatnot. So Nick Sorensen, I guess he was the ball coach, right? He was in team meetings and he was the guy who really put an emphasis on creating turnovers. If you could get back to creating turnovers, which is hard in this league, when you think about all these good quarterbacks, he's done a good job this year.
Yeah.
can you get back to that with all the quarterbacks that are on the schedule next year for the 49ers and the teams that are on the schedule here? So Nick Sorensen, we're going to get to know him at some point.